So let's talk about image descriptions. Basically, every image, all the time, has to have a description unless it's a decorative image. This one does not, so we're going to see how JAWS would read this without any kind of alt text.
Every image all the time. IMG underline 7682 left parent 1 right parent .jpg graphic.
So what we saw JAWS read was just the image number count that was in as the file and the graphics. So imagine you're a student, you can't see, you're using your screen reader, or maybe you have some kind of visual impairment and or low vision, and you click on that image and that's what you hear. So they know nothing in terms of the context, whether it's just a decorative image just for fun or something, or something else. And so every image all the time needs some kind of designation or description. So I've broken it down into about 5 levels, but I only labeled it up to level 4. So I call level 0 the decorative image situation. Level 1 is a short description, level 2 a long description, level 3 a really long description for multiple parts, and level 4 where we rewrite the image info as a table. There's of course many other kind of complexities to the images that we'll come across, but this is just an intro to give you an idea of possibly what the image you're looking to make accessible, what category it would fall under. So on this page, we have 2 images. The one on the right is just a decorative image. It has no meaning or context. It's just there for fun. And the one in the middle is, you can see, much more elaborate. It's trying to show a lot of information through text, but the reader does not read it. And so the first one we're going to talk about, though, is the decorative image on the right. So decorative images, what's the definition of a decorative image? It's an image that is non-essential to understanding the content and purpose of a page. So since this is decorative, we're going to hit Edit on our Canvas page. And we're going to click on the image and go to Image Options, and then click Decorative Image, and done. And then down on the bottom right, once you save the page, it will save your designation of this image as a decorative image.
Module navigation definition : is an image that module navigation
So what happened was the screen reader just skipped it entirely. And so this, I'm not sure how other readers do it, but the JAWS screen reader skipped over it. It's not something they need for the content of the page. So by you designate it as a decorative image, they're not losing any information or context for the information you're providing on the page. Now, decorative images are the ones that don't require description. You designated them as decorative and you're done with it. But every other example I'm going to show after this, or in other videos, will be ones that require some kind of description, and there's different ways to link and write, and it's all kinds of stuff. We're going to cover the first kind of pass at it of kind of the basics, and then we'll get more complex in future videos. But the main questions to ask yourselves are, so you have your perspective. What are the important elements that I need to get across to the reader? And a student's perspective. What is it you want me to see in this image? And so those are 2 very good questions. I think the student perspective is the one I would keep in mind. What is it you want me to see in this image? You know, what do we want them to see or get out of the image? What's the important things? So you don't necessarily have to describe every single detail. There's many videos and many guidelines talking about this, but I think if we just keep this question in mind of, what is it you want me to see in this image? Why did you put the image there? And so keeping that in mind will help you write the description. And then I went through a lot of videos, and I found some, because I think the best source would be to actually ask people who are using the screen readers that are blind or visually impaired, but 2 blind people that I saw their videos online on YouTube. One said, if it's 3 to 4 sentences, I prefer it be alt text. So one preferred the alt text, not worrying about number of characters or anything like that, but if it's just 3 or 4 sentences, alt text, and I'll show demonstrations of the alt text and short descriptions later. Another one said, write quote-unquote photo shows or quote-unquote picture description. And this was someone who actually used Instagram and Facebook, but she definitely wanted it designated as quote-unquote photo shows and then the description. She also said that she wants included who, what, when, where, the 4 W's. Now, for science and math, the 4 W's may not necessarily be applicable, but that's another thing to keep in mind when describing the image. And then another student said they prefer the text below the image. So we have one student saying they prefer the alt text, one that says they prefer it below the image, so that the screen reader will just read through it. So there's different preferences and perspectives, and there's definitely a lot of guidelines. But we're going to keep to kind of what is manageable in terms of how we're trying to integrate this into our workload as faculty, and what makes sense. And so that's where we're going to go from here. So the other categories we're going to look at, in another video, I talk about the short description. These 2 images, the graph and the element symbol, are would be good 3 to 4 sentence short descriptions. So I'll be talking about that in another video. The long description, in this case, it's got some cars, some arrows, some axes, quite a bit going on. And then the second one has a lot of text and some graphics going on. And so that would be more considered the long description. And some good science examples of long description. This one with a bunch of text boxes and a kind of flow chart. And then this really good timeline graphic, but it also has a lot of text. That would be considered also a long description. An example of something that's a really long description with multiple parts is this image of a big poster graphic that has a lot of text, some graphics, and it's been divided up by the person creating the description into 3 separate parts to create 3 separate, kind of a top, middle, and bottom for 3 separate descriptions. And so I would just call this a really long description. And one of the last type we'll talk about are the ones that have graphics and then sometimes tables or even more to the graphics that are inaccessible, but to make them accessible, being able to separate out the graphic and then create your own accessible table. And so then creating tables to relay the information accessibly is another way we'll look at. So the level 1, 2, 3, and 4 are their own separate videos. And so please make sure to check those out. And lastly, there are a couple great websites that I found that are good references for guidelines and examples. One is a video, one is a text-based guideline, both from 2 different places, or done by, I think, the same company, but have 2 different pieces of content. And those links will be in the description below this video.